Have you ever wondered why, no matter how much you fight, you still end up hurt? Why the same wounds keep reopening even when you thought you had healed? It's not because the world is cruel. It's not because you are weak. It's because something inside you, something silent, hidden, is still giving others the map to your soul. And until you see it, until you confront it, nothing will ever change. But if you stay here, if you dare to go deeper, you will discover the truth no one ever told you. No one and nothing can truly hurt you once you reclaim what has always been yours. Carl Jung warned us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. What you think of as decisions are often only reactions, patterns formed long ago in moments you barely remember. The way you seek approval, the way you fear rejection, the way anger suddenly ignites inside you. None of it random. All of it orchestrated by forgotten wounds, silent beliefs, and buried fears. It is not your conscious mind that makes you easy to manipulate. It is the darkness you refuse to face, the unmet need for love that turns criticism into a wound, the old abandonment that makes you cling when you should let go, the fear of worthlessness that forces you to prove, to justify, to please. These are the hidden strings, and they are far stronger than any chain. You imagine manipulators as cunning predators, studying you from afar, but the truth is they don't need to know you. You already wear your weaknesses like a second skin. Those who seek to control others only need to poke at what is unresolved within you. And without knowing why, you bend, you yield, you submit. You cannot protect yourself by building stronger walls, speaking harsher words, or cutting people out. That is only reacting to the surface while the puppeteer remains untouched, pulling from within. Real freedom is born the moment you dare to see the strings for what they are. Illusions created by a mind that was too young, too hurt, too afraid to process its pain. You are not weak because you feel. You are not powerless because you have needs. You are only vulnerable when you do not know yourself. Awareness, not armor, is the way out. You think you are awake, but the unconscious is a master of disguise. It speaks in the language of habits, in the urgency of emotion, in the heaviness of old stories repeating themselves through new faces. It molds your reality without ever revealing its hand. To cut the strings, you must be willing to sit in the discomfort of your own truth. You must be willing to see not only who hurt you, but how you allowed that hurt to become your master. And you must be willing to realize that no one is manipulating you now, only the echoes of a past you have yet to claim as your own. The journey has begun, and it begins, as all real journeys do, not with conquest, but with humility. Manipulation is not born from the strength of others. It is born from what you still seek without knowing you are seeking. Every time you chase approval, every time you hunger for validation, every time you fear being abandoned, you create a crack in the armor of your being. A place where others can enter, not because they are powerful, but because you have left the door wide open. The formula is simple and merciless. Unmet needs combined with unconscious fears create the perfect opening. Where you feel incomplete, you can be tempted. Where you feel afraid, you can be cornered. Where you feel unseen, you can be baited by anyone offering a fleeting reflection of your worth. You want to believe that your suffering comes from what people do to you, but the deeper truth is harder to accept. Your suffering comes from what still lives unresolved inside you. It is not their manipulation that binds you. It is your own desperation for something you have not yet given yourself. If you have a deep need to be loved, you will endure cruelty disguised as affection. If you fear being alone, you will cling to the very people who hurt you. If you believe you must earn your worth, you will sacrifice your soul to the highest bidder. These are not conscious choices. They are ancient survival patterns still playing out beneath the surface of your awareness. Carl Jung showed us that the unconscious is not a passive thing. It is active. It moves you, it seduces you, it convinces you to act against your own best interests because it still believes survival depends on being accepted, being needed, being wanted. And those who wish to control you only have to mirror back your deepest need or your darkest fear. Freedom does not come from resisting manipulation. Freedom comes from removing what manipulation feeds upon. It is not enough to see that someone is trying to use you. You must understand why it works, why a part of you still wants what they offer. Even if it comes wrapped in chains, you will never be free until you no longer crave what others can withhold. You will never be untouchable until you face the voids inside you, without running, without begging, without betraying yourself. You were born whole. It was only the wounds of life that made you forget. To heal is not to become someone new, but to return to the truth that was always waiting beneath the scars. And once you return to that center, once your needs are no longer desperate and your fears no longer blind you, the world loses its power to twist you. No one can manipulate a soul that no longer seeks permission to exist. There are parts of you you pretend do not exist. Pieces you push down into the darkness, hoping that if you deny them hard enough, they will disappear. The anger you hide under politeness, the jealousy you mask with forced indifference, the shame you drown in achievements. You call it growing up, you call it being strong, but Carl Jung called it exactly what it is, the creation of the shadow. The shadow is not evil, it is not wrong. It is simply the sum of everything you reject in yourself, everything you were taught to despise, everything you were told would make you unworthy, everything you believed would cause you to be abandoned if seen, and so you buried it. You buried it so deeply that you forgot it was ever yours. But what you reject does not disappear. It festers, it waits, and because you refuse to claim it, others use it against you. They sense the anger you deny, and they provoke it. They feel the insecurity you pretend not to have, and they exploit it. They find the tender, unguarded parts of your shadow, and they press until you crumble. You are not manipulated because you are weak. You are manipulated because you are divided against yourself. Every part of you that remains unconscious is a weapon waiting in someone else's hand. And the more you try to be only good, only noble, only perfect, the more you abandon yourself to the control of those who see through your disguise. Freedom begins the moment you stop hiding. When you turn and face the parts of yourself you were taught to hate, you rob the world of its ability to wound you with them. When you say, yes, I am angry, yes, I am afraid, yes, I am imperfect, and I still belong, then no insult, no betrayal, no rejection can break you. The shadow is not your enemy. It is your ally. It holds the keys to your wholeness. Your strength does not come from being pure. It comes from being complete. To integrate your shadow is not to lose yourself. It is to finally meet yourself fully for the first time. The parts you hide are the parts that hold your power. Until you bring them into the light, they will remain your unseen weakness, your hidden strings, the secret doors manipulators walk through without resistance. But when you gather every piece, every flaw, every unspoken truth into your arms and refuse to be ashamed, you close those doors forever. You stop being a puppet. You become the master of yourself. And in that mastery, you find a freedom no one can take, because it no longer depends on anything outside of you. The world touches you, and you flinch. A word, a glance, a moment you cannot control, and suddenly, without warning, something inside you erupts. Anger, shame, fear. You call it being sensitive, you call it being emotional. But these moments are not random storms. They are maps, precise and deliberate, pointing to the places within you that remain unhealed, unseen, untouched by your own understanding. Carl Jung knew that what provokes us reveals what we have not yet made peace with. Every emotional trigger is a messenger carrying a truth you have refused to claim. When someone ignores you and rage fills your chest, it is not their dismissal that creates the fire. It is the ancient wound of being unseen. When a careless word shatters your sense of worth, it is not the insult that breaks you. It is the voice inside that already doubted your value. You think the world is hurting you. You think if only people were kinder, more careful, more loving, you would finally feel safe. But the truth is merciless and liberating. What hurts is not what they do. It is what lives unhealed inside you. And every trigger, every flash of disproportionate emotion is a flare sent up from the depths, a call to look inward, not outward. The more you run from your triggers, the tighter their grip becomes. You numb yourself. You justify your reactions. You blame others. But all the while, the real battle rages within, untouched and undefeated. To heal is not to silence your emotions. It is to listen to them without fear. It is to sit with the discomfort until it speaks its truth. When you follow a trigger back to its source, you find the wound that birthed it. Maybe it was a moment when you were told you were not enough. Maybe it was a betrayal that taught you love is dangerous. Maybe it was a lifetime of feeling invisible. Whatever it is waiting for your recognition, waiting to be felt, understood, and finally released. Freedom does not mean you stop feeling. Freedom means you stop being ruled by what you feel. You begin to notice the trigger, breathe into it, and ask not, "Who did this to me?" but what inside me is still asking to be healed. This is the way out, not by changing the world, not by avoiding every possible hurt, but by using every hurt, every sharp word, every moment of rejection as a doorway into yourself. You do not become invulnerable by building higher walls. You become invulnerable by knowing there is no wound left inside for others to touch. The trigger is not your enemy. It is your guide. Follow it without fear, and it will lead you back to your wholeness. You spend your life reaching, grasping, tightening your hold on everything you believe will keep you safe. You try to control how others see you. You try to control what they say, how they act, whether they stay or leave. You build strategies, defenses, expectations. You believe that if you just try hard enough, predict well enough, protect deeply enough, you will finally avoid the sting of disappointment, the ache of betrayal, the terror of loss. But all the while, without knowing it, you are the one being controlled. Carl Jung showed us that what you try to control reveals what you fear most. And fear is the true master. When your energy is consumed with managing appearances, you are not free. When your peace depends on someone else's behavior, you are not free. When you need the world to move according to your fragile script to feel secure, you have already surrendered your power. Control is a beautiful illusion. It promises safety, but it demands your life. It promises certainty, but it cages your spirit. The tighter you hold on, the more brittle you become, the more easily shattered by a sudden change, an unexpected rejection, a truth you could not predict. You are not preventing pain by controlling. You are only building a life too small to hold your soul. The world does not bend to your will. People will misunderstand you. They will leave you. They will fail to love you the way you imagined they should. And this is not a flaw in the world. It is the nature of it. Life moves by its own laws, indifferent to your fears, untouched by your desperate prayers for guarantees. You were never meant to master the external. You were meant to master the internal. When you stop trying to control what is outside of you, you return to the only place where true power exists: your own mind, your own heart, your own breath. You learn to stand steady in the middle of uncertainty. You learn to release people without bitterness, to face loss without losing yourself, to be seen or unseen without it defining your worth. Freedom is not in getting the world to behave. Freedom is in no longer needing it to. It is in living so deeply rooted in your own truth that no storm can uproot you, no betrayal can dismantle you, no shifting tide can drown you. The more you release the illusion of control, the more powerful you become. Not the power to dominate, but the power to remain unshaken. Not the power to force outcomes, but the power to meet whatever comes with open eyes and an unbreakable spirit. You thought control would save you. It won't. Let it go. What you will find in its place is not chaos, but a deeper order, one that was always waiting within you. You do not see the world as it is. You see the world as you are. You look at others through the fractured glass of your own unresolved pain, your unmet needs, your unhealed wounds. And without realizing it, you project your inner landscape onto everything and everyone around you. Carl Jung taught that projection is the unconscious transfer of our own hidden contents onto others. It is not them you are seeing. It is the parts of yourself you refuse to recognize. The abandoned child sees betrayal everywhere. The hidden rage finds enemies in every face. The buried shame imagines judgment in every glance. What you fear within yourself, you assign to the world outside you. And it is in this distortion that manipulation finds its home. When you project your fears onto others, you make yourself vulnerable to illusions. You believe someone is your savior because you have not saved yourself. You trust a false kindness because you are starving for recognition. You cling to the approval of those who mirror your deepest doubts, mistaking their manipulation for love. You are not being fooled by them. You are being fooled by the stories you still carry inside. Projection is not a conscious act. It is a survival reflex. Your mind, desperate to protect you from facing your own darkness, casts it outward. It makes the enemy external. It makes the wound someone else's fault. It keeps you from seeing the real source of your pain, and therefore keeps you trapped in it. As long as you project, you remain easy to lead, easy to provoke, easy to control. You hand your power over without even knowing you have done it. You fight battles that are not real. You seek love from those who cannot give it. You try to fix outside what has been broken within. To free yourself, you must first reclaim your vision. You must recognize that what enrages you, what terrifies you, what blinds you with longing is often a mirror. You must ask, relentlessly and without judgment, what part of me am I seeing in them? What wound is speaking? What am I refusing to acknowledge in myself? When you call back your projections, you strip the world of its power to deceive you. You see people not as fantasies or threats, but as they are, complex, flawed, incapable of giving you what you must first give yourself. You stop expecting rescue. You stop fearing shadows. You walk through the world with open eyes and a steady heart. The world does not manipulate you. Your unclaimed self does. Own it. Bring it back into your arms. The clearer you see yourself, the clearer you will see others. And in that clarity, manipulation loses all its power. There is a rawness to living without masks, a nakedness that feels, at first, unbearable. You are no longer wrapped in the layers you once wore for safety, the smiles you forced, the silence you maintained, the endless performances to be accepted, to be praised, to be loved. Without the mask, you stand exposed. And for the first time, you are real. Carl Jung understood that authenticity is not something you create. It is what remains when you stop pretending, when you stop tailoring yourself to fit the expectations of a world that does not even know what it needs. It is the unedited presence of your being, not crafted to impress, not diluted to avoid rejection, but offered simply, completely as you are. At first, it feels dangerous. Every instinct you were taught urges you to retreat, to cover yourself again, to adjust your edges so they will not cut, to soften your truth so it will not scare those who have forgotten their own. You fear the judgment, the rejection, the loneliness, and sometimes they come. Some will walk away when they see you without your mask, because it is not you they loved. It was the illusion. But you must let them go. For every connection built on performance is a chain around your soul. Only in the absence of the mask can true relationships survive. Only when you are no longer willing to shrink yourself can you find the people who do not need you, to be smaller, quieter, easier to digest. Living authentically does not mean you will never be hurt. It means you will no longer be hurt for the wrong reasons. It means that when pain comes, it will not be because you betrayed yourself to earn temporary comfort. It will be because you chose truth over approval, soul over survival. The mask was never your salvation. It was your cage. And every moment you live without it, no matter how vulnerable it feels, you expand. You breathe deeper. You touch life in ways you never could when you were busy curating your existence to avoid being misunderstood. There is a power in being fully seen, even if it means being rejected. There is a freedom in being fully known, even if it means standing alone. Because the loneliness of being true is still lighter than the loneliness of being loved for someone you are not. When you live without masks, you live without chains. You no longer belong to anyone's expectations. You belong only to yourself. And that belonging, fierce, whole, undeniable, becomes the foundation of a life no longer ruled by fear. You do not have to become anything more. You only have to dare to be exactly who you already are. You were taught to believe that love should complete you, that connection should fill the empty spaces inside you, that relationships were there to save you from loneliness, from fear, from the unbearable weight of being human. But this belief is a quiet poison. It binds your happiness to the hands of another and turns what could be sacred into something desperate. Carl Jung understood that true connection cannot grow in the soil of need. It can only grow in the soil of wholeness. When you come to another person not as a beggar, but as a sovereign being, when you do not seek from them what you must first find within yourself, then and only then can something real begin. Relationships built on need are fragile. They are bartered agreements of silent expectation. Save me, complete me, fix me. And when the other inevitably fails, because no human can carry the weight of another's soul, resentment blooms, manipulation creeps in, fear takes root. You start to control, to cling, to perform, to punish, because the foundation was never solid to begin with. But when you build from power, the story changes. You do not love because you are empty. You love because you are full. You do not give to earn. You give because you have something true to offer. You do not stay out of fear. You stay because your soul is honored in the presence of another. Freedom is the heartbeat of true connection. It is the deep, abiding understanding that I do not own you. You do not own me. I can walk away, and so can you, and still I choose to stay. There is no chain, only choice. There is no performance, only presence. To love from power is to let go of control, to let people be who they are even when it is uncomfortable, to let relationships evolve, change, even end without making it a verdict on your worth. It is to bless those who leave, to release those who cannot meet you where you are going, to stand tall even when love demands the courage to let go. You do not lose yourself in love when you are whole. You expand. You become more of who you are, not less. You do not need to dim your light to be accepted. You do not need to silence your truth to be loved. In the end, the connections that endure are the ones born from freedom, not fear. From two souls who have faced themselves and emerged strong enough to meet each other without masks, without chains, without conditions. This is the love that does not imprison. This is the love that sets you free. There is a kind of freedom so profound that most people only glimpse it in fleeting moments. A freedom that does not depend on circumstances, approval, or control. A freedom that lives beyond fear, beyond manipulation, beyond the fragile need for the world to agree with who you are. It is not given, it is claimed, and it is the natural birthright of the one who has dared to know themselves completely. Carl Jung knew that wholeness, not perfection, is the key. When you have gathered every piece of yourself, the light and the shadow, the beauty and the shame, and stood before it without judgment, you become something extraordinary. You become untouchable, not because pain no longer exists, but because nothing outside of you can determine the meaning of your life anymore. The manipulations that once pulled at you, the silent pressures that once made you betray yourself, fall away like old chains you no longer even remember wearing. You do not need to defend yourself because there is nothing left to defend. You do not need to prove yourself because you no longer seek permission to exist. You do not need to control others because you trust yourself to meet whatever comes. Radical freedom is not isolation. It is not withdrawal. It is the fearless engagement with life, knowing that no matter what it offers or what it takes, you remain whole. You are no longer waiting for anyone to complete you. You are no longer seeking in the world what you have already found within. You walk into every room without bending your spine. You speak without the tremor of needing to be understood. You love without clinging. You let go without bitterness. You stand so deeply rooted in your own soul that the storms of life, fierce as they may be, cannot uproot you. This is not invincibility. You will still feel sorrow. You will still bleed when life demands it. But the pain will pass through you without dismantling you, without stealing your clarity, without making you forget who you are. You will know grief without losing your joy. You will know betrayal without losing your trust in life itself. The untouchable life is not about closing your heart. It is about opening it so wide that nothing gets trapped inside. Hurt comes and it goes. Praise comes and it goes. Love comes and it stays or it leaves, and still you remain, whole, awake, unshaken. You were never meant to live shackled by fear, distorted by need, ruled by wounds that others could exploit. You were meant to rise, fierce and unmovable, as the master of your own soul. Radical freedom is not a dream. It is who you become when you finally remember that no one and nothing ever had the power to own you. You have made it here because you chose not to look away. You chose to face what others spend their lives running from. You chose truth over comfort, wholeness over performance, freedom over fear. But the journey does not end with understanding. It deepens with action. Every day you will be offered chances to slip back into old chains, to surrender to familiar wounds, to hand over your power out of habit. And every day you must choose again. Choose to be sovereign. Choose to stand whole even when the world tempts you to fracture. Choose to live as someone no longer waiting for permission, no longer moved by manipulation, no longer defined by anything outside yourself. You have come further than most ever will. You have dared to face the truths that others spend their lives running from. But real transformation is not a single moment. It is a path, a commitment to keep awakening, to keep choosing yourself again and again. If this journey has stirred something inside you, do not stop here. There is more waiting for you to deeper truths, greater freedom, a strength you have not yet imagined. Subscribe now and stay close, because the next step is already calling you. And the next video will take you even further into the life you were always meant to live. This is just the beginning. Let's keep walking this path together.